The price climbs. Your hand hovers over the buy button. Your heart beats faster. You tell yourself this is different. This time you will not miss out. But beneath that urgency, something darker moves. Fear disguised as opportunity. Greed wearing the mask of intelligence. Marcus Aurelius never touched cryptocurrency. He ruled an empire without touching a screen. Yet his words on fear, desire, and control speak directly to the modern investor paralyzed by market volatility. This video explores how Stoic principles apply to Bitcoin, FOMO, and the emotional discipline required for capital preservation. In an age designed to destabilize your mind, you will learn why the system profits from your panic, why your wealth depends less on market timing and more on internal control, and why the greatest investment strategy begins not with technical analysis, but with mastering your own reactions to loss and gain. A man sits alone in a small apartment. The glow of his laptop screen illuminates his face. It is 3 in the morning. He cannot sleep. Bitcoin has dropped 12% in 6 hours. He bought at the peak. Now he watches the red numbers fall, each refresh of the page a small death. 2 weeks earlier he was calm. He had savings, a modest portfolio, a plan built over years. Then his coworker mentioned Bitcoin, not once but daily. Stories of massive gains, screenshots of wallets that had doubled overnight. The man resisted at first. He believed in long-term investing, index funds, boring wealth. But the stories persisted. Online forums filled with strangers celebrating their escape from poverty through cryptocurrency. Influencers promising that traditional finance was dead, that those who hesitated would be left behind. The language was urgent, aggressive. You are either in or you are obsolete. The man felt something shift inside him, not excitement but fear, the fear of being left out, of missing the one chance that separated winners from losers. He told himself he was being rational. He had researched. He understood blockchain technology. He knew the risks. But beneath that logic, his ego was speaking. His pride could not tolerate the idea of his coworker becoming wealthier while he remained cautious. So he bought, not with money he could afford to lose, but with a significant portion of his emergency fund. He convinced himself this was calculated, strategic, a hedge against inflation, but the real driver was emotional. The market volatility had triggered something primal, the need to act, to not be passive while others succeeded. Now at 3 in the morning he understands. The urgency was not wisdom, it was fear. Fear of missing out, fear of being wrong. Fear of staying ordinary while the world moved forward without him. And that fear has cost him not just money but peace. He cannot sleep, cannot focus. His entire sense of security now depends on numbers he cannot control. You have likely felt this same anxiety when looking at your own bank account. The modern financial system is designed to create this feeling, to make you believe that stillness is failure. That patience is a weakness. That true intelligence requires constant action. But Marcus Aurelius would see through this immediately. He would recognize it as a trap, an external force attempting to control your internal state. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, never intended for publication, that most of what disturbs us is not the thing itself, but our judgment about it. He ruled Rome during plague and war. He faced collapsing borders and economic crisis. Yet his focus remained on what he could control. His thoughts, his reactions, his choices in the face of chaos. Apply this to Bitcoin. Apply this to any market volatility. The price of cryptocurrency moves independently of your emotional state. It rises and falls based on forces you cannot influence. Regulatory decisions, institutional investment, speculation by entities with resources you will never possess. These are external events, indifferent to your fear or hope. What you control is simple: whether you buy, whether you sell, whether you panic, whether you create a disciplined portfolio management system or react impulsively to every price movement, whether you preserve capital through patience or destroy it through emotional trading. Consider this analogy. A farmer plants seeds. He waters them. He tends the soil, but he cannot control the rain. He cannot command the sun. He cannot prevent storms. If he spends his days obsessing over weather forecasts, refreshing predictions every hour, he will exhaust himself. He will make poor decisions. He will abandon his field during a drought or overplant during a wet season. The wise farmer focuses on his process. He plants according to season. He saves resources for difficult times. He does not check the sky every 5 minutes. He builds systems that work regardless of conditions. This is Stoic investment strategy. This is how you build wealth quietly while others burn themselves out chasing short-term gains. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of history's greatest philosophers, taught that we must distinguish between what is up to us and what is not up to us. Price movements are not up to you. Bitcoin reaching $100,000 or dropping to $20,000 is not within your power, but your response is entirely yours. Your discipline in maintaining a budget, your refusal to invest money you need for survival, your ability to ignore the noise and focus on long-term investing principles. If you focus on your internal control, write indifferent in the comments. This is not apathy. This is power. The power to remain stable while markets convulse. The power to preserve wealth by refusing to let external chaos dictate your decisions. The Stoics practiced a mental exercise called negative visualization. They imagined losing everything, not to cultivate fear but to eliminate it. By confronting worst-case scenarios mentally, they removed the shock value. They prepared themselves to respond with reason rather than panic. Apply this to your portfolio. Imagine your investment dropping to zero. Sit with that feeling. If you cannot bear the thought, you are overexposed. You have violated the first principle of capital preservation, which is never to risk more than you can afford to lose completely. Marcus Aurelius owned vast wealth, but he did not let it own him. He understood that external possessions could vanish. Empires fall. Gold can be stolen. Currencies collapse. But the fortress of the mind, fortified by emotional discipline, remains unbreached. This is what separates lasting wealth from temporary luck. This is the foundation of financial control that survives market crashes and economic upheaval. The question is not whether Bitcoin will make you rich. The question is whether you can tolerate uncertainty without losing yourself. Here is how to apply Stoic principles to your financial life, not as theory, but as practice. First, establish your circle of control. Write down what you actually control in your financial situation. You control how much you earn. You control your spending habits. You control your savings rate. You control how you educate yourself about investments. You control whether you follow a plan or react to fear. Make this list physical. Keep it visible. When market volatility strikes, return to this list. If the source of your anxiety is not on this list, you are wasting energy. Second, implement a Stoic budget. Most budgets fail because they focus on restriction. They tell you what you cannot have. A Stoic budget focuses on sufficiency. Ask yourself what you actually need, not what advertising tells you to want, not what your peers have. What do you need for health, shelter, meaningful work, and relationships? Everything beyond that is preference, not necessity. This distinction is critical. When you understand the difference between needs and preferences, you stop impulse spending. You stop buying things to fill emotional voids. You redirect money toward building wealth quietly rather than displaying status. Third, create an investment policy statement. This is a written document that defines your rules before emotion enters the equation. It answers these questions in advance. What percentage of your portfolio goes to volatile assets like cryptocurrency? Under what conditions do you buy more? Under what conditions do you sell? What is your time horizon? 5 years? 10? 20? What is your risk tolerance based on your actual financial situation, not your ego's need to compete with others? When you have an investment policy statement, you remove decision-making from moments of panic. You do not check prices and then decide. You follow your pre-established rules. This is how institutional investors operate. They do not let emotions drive trades. They follow systems built during calm periods. You must do the same. Without this, you are gambling. With this, you are investing. Fourth, practice the discipline of subtraction. The Stoics believed that more is not better. That accumulation without purpose leads to anxiety, not peace. Apply this to your portfolio. Most investors fail not because they miss opportunities, but because they chase too many. They spread themselves thin. They try to be in every market, hold every promising asset, follow every trend. This dilution destroys focus and increases risk. Instead, subtract. Hold fewer positions. Understand them deeply. Know why you own each asset. Know what would cause you to sell. Know how each fits into your overall strategy. When you reduce complexity, you increase control. You can monitor what matters. You can make decisions based on logic rather than overwhelm. Fifth, stop checking prices. This sounds simple, but it is revolutionary. The data is clear. The more frequently investors check their portfolio value, the worse their returns. Why? Because frequent checking triggers emotional responses. You see a drop and feel compelled to act. You see a rise and feel pressure to buy more before it is too late. Both reactions usually lead to poor timing. Set a schedule. Check once per week or once per month. Use that time to review whether your investments still align with your strategy, not whether they went up or down in the last 24 hours. If your time horizon is 10 years, daily price movements are noise, irrelevant data that creates the illusion of urgency. Sixth, build an emergency fund before any speculative investment. Marcus Aurelius prepared for war during peacetime. He did not assume stability would last. He fortified borders when threats were distant. Apply this mentality. Before you touch cryptocurrency, before you invest in individual stocks, before you take any risk, establish 6 months of living expenses in a secure, boring account. This is not exciting. It will not make you feel like a genius, but it will prevent panic selling during downturns. It will give you the psychological foundation to tolerate volatility. Without this foundation, you are fragile. A single emergency forces you to liquidate at the worst time. With this foundation, you can ignore market noise. You can wait for recovery. You can make decisions based on strategy rather than survival. This is how to stop impulse spending on emotional reactions and start building wealth quietly through patience. Seventh, recognize FOMO as ego, not analysis. Every time you feel the urge to buy because everyone else is buying, pause. Ask yourself, what is driving this feeling? Is it genuine research? Or is it fear of being left behind? Is it your rational assessment of value? Or is it your ego's need to participate in the story everyone is telling? The Stoics taught that most suffering comes from attachment to things we do not control. FOMO is attachment to a narrative. The narrative that says missing this opportunity defines you as a failure. But missing any single opportunity does not determine your financial future. What determines your future is whether you consistently apply discipline over decades. One missed trade means nothing. One impulsive mistake can mean everything. Eighth, study market history without believing you can predict the future. Understanding past cycles gives context. It shows you that volatility is normal, that crashes happen, that recoveries take time. But it does not give you a crystal ball. The past informs, it does not dictate. Use historical data to calibrate your expectations, not to justify reckless predictions. Marcus Aurelius studied history obsessively. He read about past emperors, their mistakes, their triumphs. Not to copy them, but to understand patterns of human behavior. He knew that external circumstances change, but human nature remains constant. Greed, fear, pride, these forces shaped Rome just as they shape modern markets. Learn from this. Study bubbles, crashes, recoveries. Not to time the next one, but to prepare your mind to respond with reason when the next cycle arrives. Ninth, accept that you will miss opportunities. This is not failure. This is reality. No one catches every trend. No one buys every bottom and sells every top. Trying to do so guarantees exhaustion and mistakes. The goal is not perfection. The goal is a sustainable system that builds wealth over time without destroying your peace. Seneca wrote that the man who chases every path walks none of them well. Focus on your path, your strategy, your plan. Let others celebrate their wins. Let them post their gains. If you are following a disciplined approach to long-term investing, their noise is irrelevant. Your wealth will compound silently while they burn out chasing excitement. 10th, remember that the system profits from your panic. Exchanges make money on your trades. Media makes money on your clicks. Influencers make money on your engagement. All of them benefit when you act impulsively, when you check prices constantly, when you buy and sell based on emotion. They do not care about your capital preservation. They care about their revenue. The Stoic investor is invisible to this system. They do not trade frequently. They do not generate fees. They do not drive traffic. They are boring, unremarkable, and they build wealth quietly while the system extracts money from those who cannot sit still. Be boring, be patient, be indifferent to the noise. This is how you win. Marcus Aurelius died on campaign, far from Rome, likely from plague. He owned an empire, yet he wrote in his private journal about the impermanence of all things. Wealth, power, fame, all temporary, all external, all beyond ultimate control. What mattered was how he lived, whether he acted with virtue, whether he maintained discipline in the face of chaos. You do not rule an empire, but you face the same internal battle, the battle between your reactive self and your disciplined self, between the part of you that wants instant gratification and the part that understands delayed reward, between the ego that needs to prove itself and the wisdom that knows true wealth is quiet. The system wants you poor. It wants you anxious. It wants you checking prices, chasing trends, buying things you do not need to impress people you do not like. It profits from your fear, from your FOMO, from your belief that you are falling behind. Stoicism makes you free, not because it guarantees wealth, but because it severs the connection between your peace and external outcomes. You can lose money and remain stable. You can miss opportunities and remain confident. You can watch others celebrate gains and remain focused on your plan. This is power. This is financial control that no market crash can take from you. Bitcoin will rise. Bitcoin will fall. Other assets will surge. Other assets will collapse. These movements are indifferent to you. What is not indifferent is your response. Whether you build systems or chase feelings, whether you preserve capital through discipline or destroy it through emotional trading, whether you understand that true security comes not from perfect timing, but from internal mastery. You began this video watching a man panic at 3 in the morning. his peace destroyed by numbers on a screen. Do not become that man. Do not let external volatility dictate your internal state. Build your fortress, your Stoic investment strategy, your system of emotional discipline that operates regardless of market conditions. The path is clear. Establish your circle of control. Create your investment policy statement. Build your emergency fund. Reduce complexity. Stop checking prices. Recognize FOMO as ego. Study history without believing you can predict the future. Accept missed opportunities. Remember that the system profits from your panic. And above all, focus on what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, your discipline. This is not easy. It requires practice. It requires returning to these principles daily when fear tempts you to abandon them. But it works, not through magic, but through the compounding power of consistency over time. While others exhaust themselves chasing short-term gains, you will build wealth quietly. While others panic during crashes, you will remain calm and capitalize on opportunities. While others let the market control them, you will control yourself. Subscribe to Money and Stoicism to master your finances and your mind. Like this video if you seek true freedom. Not the false freedom of wealth without discipline, but the true freedom of a mind unshaken by forces beyond your control. The freedom Marcus Aurelius possessed even as empires crumbled. The freedom available to you right now, regardless of your portfolio value. The choice is yours. The market will do what it does. The question is who you will be while it does. Will you be reactive or disciplined? Will you be controlled by fear or guided by reason? Will you chase every opportunity or follow your plan with patience? Marcus Aurelius would tell you the answer, but you already know it. You have always known it. The work now is simply to live it, to build your system, to trust your discipline, to remain indifferent to the noise and focused on what matters: your mind, your choices, your long-term vision that sees beyond today's volatility to decades of compounding growth. This is the path. Walk it quietly, walk it consistently, and watch what happens when you stop fighting the market and start mastering yourself.